Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be doing a complete disassembly of the Island Armory M1911A1. We shot this gun last week. It performed excellently. The only issue or complaint that I had was with the magazine that came with it. So I'll probably be purchasing a few Colt magazines or something later that perform better. Other than that, this is the gun right here that we will be disassembling fully and completely. So without further delay, let's get right to it. All right, the first thing we're going to be doing is taking the magazine out and checking for an empty chamber. Next thing we will be doing is removing the recoil spring plug, the barrel bushing, and the slide stop. So to do that, we're going to flip the gun over like this. We're going to push down on the recoil spring plug right here, and we're going to rotate the barrel bushing 90 degrees clockwise. Just like that. Ease out the spring and the plug, just like that. We're going to take the plug out, set that aside. We're now going to rotate the barrel bushing counterclockwise so that it sits at a 45-degree angle, just like that. And we're going to take the barrel bushing out, just like that. We're going to set that aside. Now that we have tension off of the slide, we're going to pull the slide back. Till it lines up with this notch right here. We're going to push on the other side of the slide stop, and we're going to take out the slide stop. Just like that, and we'll now set that aside. Next thing we're going to do is remove the slide from the frame. Flip over the slide. We're going to pull the recoil spring with the recoil spring guide out, just like that. You can pull this off for cleaning if you want to, just like that. Set that aside. Now we're going to pull the barrel out of the slide. We're going to rotate the barrel link down and forward, and we're going to ease the barrel out of the slide, just like that. Next, we're going to be removing the, we're going to work on the slide a little bit more. We're going to be removing the firing pin stop, the firing pin spring, and the extractor. So we're going to start by pushing down on the firing pin and pushing down towards ourselves slightly to get the firing pin stop to move away from the top of the slide. Now we're going to continue moving the firing pin stop. Be careful because the firing pin has spring tension. Just like that. We're going to remove the firing pin stop. We're going to remove the firing pin and firing pin spring. We can pull that off, set that aside. Now we're going to remove the extractor. The extractor usually has a little bit of tension on it, as it is bent a little bit to have the proper tension. So we're going to use a little plastic tool, put that in the notch. There's a little notch right there, and we're going to push on that and possibly on the other side of the extractor, which is right here. Just keep pushing on it until it starts releasing, just like that. And we're going to pull the extractor out, just like that. It's your extractor, and that takes care of the slide completely. We have the rear sight and the front sight still on there, but we're going to leave those on there. We're not changing those out just yet. All right, next on the list, we're going to start working on the frame and all its internal parts. First thing I like to do is take off the grips. Make sure you have a hollow ground, proper sized screwdriver bit to take any screws that you're working on out, because otherwise you'll bugger up the screws, and we don't want to do that. Flip to the other side. After the screws are removed, you're going to go inside the magazine well right here. Use your finger. If these are on too tightly, you may have to use a tool, but to push on the grips from the inside of the magazine well. So I'm going to use my pinky finger, push one out just like that. Set that aside. Now the other side will be easier because you can use both thumbs and just snap. That one's really on there. The other grip panel off. Just like that. So you have both grip panels. Done. Next on the list is to remove the mainspring housing to take tension off everything. We're going to release the hammer down just like that. We're going to grab a bench block of some sort. We're going to flip this over. We're going to give the mainspring housing a pin right here, just a little love tap to get it started. Okay, once it gets started, find a hole so you can push it all the way through. The punch is going to get captured by the pressure of the spring, just like that. That'll stay in there. Get your mainspring housing pin, set it aside. Hold on to your mainspring housing by pushing down on it with pressure with your thumb, and pull this out, which is going to be a punch. And then you're going to pull your mainspring housing out just like that. All right, next up we're going to work on the mainspring housing itself to further disassemble this so we can get the mainspring housing spring out and the spring capture out, all that, the pin, for further cleaning and inspection. So we're going to grab a bench block. This pin only comes out one direction, or should only come out one direction. So this flat side, you need to rotate it the other way so that you have the grip part showing here. And we're going to push the pin out this way. We're going to grab an appropriately sized punch and push this way. This has a lot of tension on it. So this will be captured once we push that pin out. What I like to do actually is use something plastic like this or brass like this, punch and push down on the mainspring. Okay, we're going to use the plastic, and we'll use the brass. Okay, we're going to push down on that with a lot of force. Okay, and we're going to push the pin out this direction, capturing this as we do that. So push down. I actually have a little more control with this, so we're going to use the plastic. Okay, and then we're going to push that pin out. Okay, so the pin is out, just like that. Set that aside. And we've captured now the pin punch in there. We're going to push down on that spring again, releasing the spring, the mainspring. Okay, be very careful. Again, a lot of tension on this spring. Pull that out and lift up. All right, inside the mainspring housing, after we've moved the pin, you will find the mainspring cap, which we can now set those aside. And inside the housing itself, you're going to rotate that up and you're going to find the mainspring pin retainer right here. We can set those aside. That is completely disassembled. All right, we'll go back to the frame now. And next is to remove the sear spring and the grip safety spring. So you can either finagle that out with your fingers. I usually grab a pair of tweezers like this. Come from the other side, get it to move. Come underneath it. And just wiggle it out, just like that. That is your sear spring and grip safety spring. And set that aside. All right, next up we're going to remove the safety. And along with it, we're going to remove the grip safety as well. So to do this, you're going to have to put the hammer in the, I guess, cocked position. And then you're going to go onto the other side of the frame and push right here on the safety pin. Okay. While at the same time, just jiggling that safety until it comes free. Be a little bit careful because the safety plunger has tension on it and it may go shooting out this way, so just be aware of that. So we're going to push on the other side of that frame right here on that pin side, and we're going to wiggle this safety back and forth until it comes free. Pull out just like that, and then you have your safety. We can set that aside. At this point, I guess we can also remove the plunger, so the safety plunger with the spring, and also the slide release plunger comes out with it, just like that. So we'll set that aside as well. Just another look at it. Okay, and now from here we can go ahead and remove the grip safety as well. It comes out after you remove the safety, just like that. You can set that aside. All right, next we are going to be removing the hammer along with the hammer strut right here that pushes down on the main spring housing spring. So to do that, it's very simple. We're going to take a punch. This comes out without using a hammer. You're just going to go onto the other side of the frame like that, push on the hammer pin, and you'll see it already starting to go just like that. There's your hammer pin. We're going to set that aside. And we're going to pull the hammer out with the strut. We are not going to take the strut off. The only reason you would need to remove that is if you're replacing the strut itself, the hammer strut. So here you have your hammer hooks and all that jazz to do, trigger work and stuff like that. So we'll set that aside. Next, we will be removing the sear and disconnector just by removing a simple pin that holds those both together. We'll go again to these pins only remove one direction. So the flat side is flush with the frame right there. So we're going to flip it over and we're going to go to the round side of the pin and we're going to give it a little push. Find the appropriate size punch first. Push it out. Here is your pin for your sear and disconnect. Set that aside. And then out will fall your sear and your disconnect. Set those aside. All right, we are almost done with the disassembly. We just have to remove a few other parts. The next items are going to be the magazine catch, this guy right here, which also prevents the trigger from falling out as well. So we're going to do that. So we're going to get the appropriately sized tipped screwdriver bit, and we're going to push. We're going to put this in the slot, and we're going to push on the opposite side of the magazine catch. Get that securely in there. So that with the screwdriver in there, we're going to push on the opposite side of the magazine catch until it starts moving a little bit. Okay, and then we're going to rotate the screwdriver counterclockwise, just 90 degrees. And then that will capture, and we'll just pull out the magazine catch just like that. You can also further take this down, pull out the spring and that screw head right there out. If you need to further disassemble that to put a new one in, you can do that or clean it out, but that's captured in there as well. So we'll just set that aside. Okay, and then from there we'll tip the gun over, and out falls the trigger. The trigger bow, just like that. You can polish this up to get it a little nicer. This is all stock, I haven't done any work on it yet, but you can polish that up to get a nicer trigger feel as well. So we'll set that aside. All right, so to this point, we've done a complete disassembly of this 1911. Here are all your parts, just like that. And this is all you really need to do to fix any part of the gun, modify it any way you want, replace parts. This is it. All right, now it's time to put the gun back together again. So to do that, we're going to start with the slide. You can start with the frame if you want. We're going to start with the slide. To do that, we're going to need the firing pin stop, the firing pin spring, and firing pin and the extractor. So first, we're going to put in the extractor. This only goes in, should only go in one way. The extractor head goes towards the front of the slide. This little notch needs to be aligned correctly so that the firing pin stop can capture that. So we're going to put this back in to the slide, and it should fit flush right here. I can already see that there's a little bit misalignment. We'll see if that gives us any problems. Okay, the extractor's back in. Now we're going to grab the firing pin spring. This should only go on one way. On one way, it just falls off. Okay, the other direction, it should have a little tension on it. Push it up nice and snug, and the spring shouldn't fall off. We're going to now drop that in, just like that. We're going to take the firing pin stop with the round part of the stop going up towards the top of the slide. Okay, we're going to push down on the firing pin till we get it started. Okay, now we're going to take a punch. Actually, I'm going to take my little plastic thing, push down on it further, start sliding the firing pin stop up. Okay, if everything's aligned right, that should just snap back into place. Okay. All right, next we'll take care of the mainspring housing, putting that back together. I noticed that the mainspring housing cap had some burrs on it, so I went ahead and deburred that, polished it up a little bit so that it runs a little smoother, hopefully. And I also polished up the tip of the hammer strut as well. So put this back together. So the first thing we're gonna put in is the mainspring retainer pin, the mushroom side down. Then we're gonna put in the mainspring, just like that. And then we're gonna put on the mainspring cap, just like that. Now, the tricky part, we have to push down on this while putting in the mainspring, the little pin. The flat side of the pin, the mushroomed out head part, the flat part, is going to be on the flat side of the mainspring housing. So we have to put the pin in this way. So we're going to take our plastic piece and we're going to push down on the mainspring. And once it clears, we're going to put in the pin. That did not work out right. Let's try it again. Okay. If all goes smoothly, you should have captured the mainspring. It should be nice and flush back here. If it's not, you can give it a little smack with a plastic hammer just to make sure it's in all the way. Next up is the magazine catch and the trigger are gonna go back in. So I'm gonna tip the gun up like this, and we are going to slide the trigger in this direction. Should just fall in, okay? And with the trigger all the way forward, we're going to now put in the magazine catch, just like that. We're gonna grab our screwdriver, our proper fitting screwdriver, and we're gonna stick it in that slot. We're going to push up slightly on the other side of the magazine catch, and we're going to twist clockwise 90 degrees of a turn, or a quarter of a turn, and it should snap back into place. Do a test. Trigger should not fall out. We're good to go. This next part's a little tricky. We're going to put back in the frame, the disconnector, the sear, and the pin that holds it all together. So the sear, or sorry, the disconnector has a flat part on it. That part is going to ride on the back of the trigger bow. Okay, and the sear is going to sit on top of the disconnector, facing what looks like backwards almost. Okay, so this piece needs to face towards the back of the gun. That's the part that's going to catch the hammer hooks. All right, so we're going to start with placing the disconnector in here. So you should be able to see the back of the trigger bow right here. That flat piece again is going to ride in there, and you're going to push the disconnector up through that hole right there. Okay, just like that. Now we're going to place the sear on top of that. Requires a little bit of finesse, which I obviously lack right now. Okay. Tweezers are good, they help you out a little bit on this. Aligned. There we go. Now it's all together. Now we're going to put in the pin. Again, the pin only goes in one direction. So the round side is going to face to this direction. The flat side will go in this recess over here. So we're going to push the pin in over here in this hole. Now we have to line up carefully. I take the tweezers and I kind of push up slightly on the back of the disconnect. Maybe. Push up slightly, try to align it until the holes meet up. That pin should go in right there, holding your sear and disconnector in like that. You can check everything, make sure everything is moving but still staying in place. It is, so we're good there. All right, next we have the hammer with the strut and the hammer pin. So we're going to again make sure that the pin goes in only one direction. The flat side will go here, the round side will be of course on the other side. Okay. And we're going to slide the hammer in, aligning that hole up with this hole. Slide the pin in, and we're done with that part. We're now going to grab the plunger for the slide release and the safety, the safety plunger. Okay, they're connected. There's a smaller plunger and a larger side. We want the smaller plunger going towards the front of the frame. So we're just going to slide that in there like that. Okay. And that's that. All right, up next, we have to do a little bit of multitasking here. So first thing we're going to do is take the sear spring and grip safety spring and put it in back here, we have to make sure that this part is riding on top of the, there's a little cutout. That part is on top of the sear. So there's also a little piece down here at the bottom of the spring that fits into this notch, capturing it so it does not move. We're going to put our finesse gloves on and put that in there. Oops, and also the strut needs to be on top. Okay, so we have everything right. This part of the spring should be on the sear. The strut's on top right here, and this should be in this notch captured so that the spring doesn't move. Now, that like that, we are going to hold the spring in place always now. We don't want that spring to move. We need to bring the hammer back or the safety won't go in. So, we're going to put the safety, always hold that spring in place. It will move out of the way. We're gonna put the grip safety in back of the spring. Hold down here maybe. Okay, we have to make sure that the hammer strut rides down the center of that grip safety. Now we can push on that back of that grip safety, holding everything in place. Don't let go of that. Again, make sure the hammer is back. Flip the gun over this way. And we are going to insert the safety. Maybe. There we go, a little wiggling around. Now, the plunger for the safety catch, is going to be in the way. So you're going to take a little plastic piece like this and push the plunger in. Okay. And at the same time, keep pushing back on that grip safety. While you're pushing in on the safety, you're going to be pushing the plunger out of the way so that the plunger catches on the safety right there. Okay. Make sure our spring hasn't moved. Make sure everything's still in place. That safety should now work. Okay. And that part is finished. Okay, we are almost done. We're almost there. We still have to keep pressure on the back of this grip safety until we get the mainspring housing back in there. Make sure everything is in alignment. The strut is a little high right now. It's going to be hard to fit in this mainspring cap. So we're going to go ahead and pull the trigger down so that it exposes more of the strut. We're going to slide the mainspring housing in to make contact with the cap. Okay, at this point, you're good to go ahead and release the grip safety. Okay, now we need to bring the hammer up all the way, making sure that the strut doesn't fall out of there. Okay, so go ahead and squeeze everything like you're gonna drop the hammer. Okay, and keep pushing that mainspring housing up all the way as far as it'll go, the hammer in the up position. We're gonna flip the gun over and we're going to put in the mainspring housing pin. This mainspring housing pin has a dimple on one side. That is going to be on the left side of the gun, or the left side of the frame. Okay, hopefully we can hand start it here. We're going to continue pushing down on the housing. Whoops. Let me bring that hammer all the way back up. Okay. Oh, we lost alignment. So, we're going to bring the housing out again. Okay. Hammer down. Okay. Now while you're pulling the trigger and the grip safety, keep pushing the housing up. Okay, everything's good, we're in alignment. Now, push down on that mainspring housing the rest of the way. And push that pin in. It's pretty tight. Okay, oops. If you can get it started halfway, you're good to rock and roll here. So we're gonna grab a bench block and we're gonna take a plastic hammer and we're gonna drive it the rest of the way home. Just like that. And it snaps into place, should be flush. Okay, it's starting to look like a 1911 again. Now we're going to do the grip caps, grips. Gonna install those next. Screws in. Grab an appropriately sized screwdriver bit again. Okay, looks good. All right, guys, now the easy part. We've all been to this point, and I think everybody can put it back in 1911 together from this standpoint. It's just basically field stripped here. We're gonna start with the recoil spring and the recoil spring guide. We're gonna fit those back together. Should be a nice tight fit. Okay, on the recoil spring guide, there's a little horseshoe cutout piece. That part rides on top of the barrel. All right, now we're gonna take our slide. We're gonna take our barrel. We're gonna make sure that the barrel link is down so that it'll fit in the slide. I'm gonna push that all the way back till the hood is all the way back. And then we're gonna take our recoil spring, put it in this way, pick up the barrel link till it's in up position, and we're gonna make sure again that that horseshoe piece is riding on top of the barrel. All right, now holding the spring and everything in place, we're gonna take the frame, put it on the slide, or the slide on the frame. Okay, keep going back until you see the link through this hole here. It should match up. You're gonna take the slide stop, put it in that hole just to start it. Okay, just to start it. Now we're gonna pull the slide back till that little itty bitty notch, not the big notch, the next little notch is lined up with this square hole right here. Just like that. Now, this is where everybody messes up their frame. They take the slide stop and they rotate it up the frame, and it scratches the crap out of the frame right here. So we're gonna be a little bit more careful than that. We're gonna set this right here, right below the plunger, that plunger right there. Okay, and we're going to then push up into that plunger. Should move out of the way with a little convincing. Okay, got it out of the way. Now we can drive the slide stop the rest of the way home. Just like that. Okay. Now what we need to do is put the barrel bushing back on and the spring cover back on. All right, so we're gonna take the spring and cover and depress it. Actually, no, we're not yet. We're gonna take the barrel lug, or the barrel bushing, and we're going to set this back on inside the frame over the barrel at that 45-degree angle again. Just like that. Now we're going to rotate it clockwise. Once it's seated, we're going to rotate it clockwise the other direction till it's sitting at a 90-degree angle right here. Now we can push the spring all the way down, being careful not to release it so that it doesn't go flying. Okay, just with your index finger, just keep pushing. All right, then you're going to rotate the barrel bushing down till it just slightly captures it. Okay, then you're going to Move your finger a little bit more out of the way. Keep pushing down on that spring. Rotate the barrel bushing till it comes over the top of it and captures it. Now you should have a fully functioning 1911. All right, now we can do a basic function test of the gun. We'll put the magazine in. Feels like the magazine catch is working. Now we're going to pull the slide back, make sure that the slide stop is working. It is indeed. Release it. Put the safety up, pull the trigger. Hammer doesn't drop. That's great. So that's working. And now we will drop the trigger, make sure again that there's nothing in the chamber. Pull the trigger. That's it. Done. Thanks for joining me today, guys, on the complete disassembly of the Island Armory 1911. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Be very careful. The spring has a lot of tension, and we just lost the recoil spring plug.